Arise and walk, my son.
Dr. McDermott's a great believer in the natural healing powers of the mind.
Let's see.
James Pawson, me Canadian amigo.
Closer.
Sounds like you got some health problems that are bothering you. They sound pretty nasty. I'm not sure how bad they are, but I'm sure the last thing that you needed was this election to go the way that it did. I'm sensing a lot of anger. The sensing part is that I hear what you're saying and you're telling us directly that you're extremely angry. So my ability to perceive this has led me to consider a few things. Though you and I are exactly, I think, on the same page when it comes to the Liberals, you know, whether that's far left anything, NDP, what have you, and just how foul and bad the turnout of this election was, we are in complete disagreement about the PPC. So now, before you get upset if you're watching this,
Okay.
I decided to make a quick video to talk to you about this because I thought maybe in our disagreement I could offer you something besides anger and a different perspective on where your anger perhaps should lie, rather than your many viewers who undoubtedly prefer the PPC over the Conservatives. So, first of all, you are shitting on your fans that voted PPC. I know that's probably not your intention. I think you're probably even trying to restrain yourself, but you are essentially calling them all fucking retarded and to blame. I watched through the video and it's pretty scathing. That is your right to have that perspective. But if you'll give me the opportunity, your point of view on this is very much where mine was about how elections run most of my life. Strangely enough, even though I despise the far left as it is today, a huge influence was when I became aware of the work of Christopher Hitchens. He called himself a leftist and even a Marxist most of his life, probably right to the end, but the context was the old school. He was never a proper Marxist, meaning he was a terrible one because he believed in the values of the Enlightenment, but still for some reason hung on to it because of maybe his youthful days, identity. And as a leftist, he was constantly on their case these days about how they had completely abandoned all of the issues that were meant to lead to individual independence rather than running to authority for everything. He really hated and despised where the left had gone in the last few decades of his life. But the point of why I bring up Hitchens and the influence specifically he had with me is, well, because I don't see things as strategic voting anymore. I think strategic voting is itself unstrategic. And follow my thinking on this. At the end of the day, the only thing that a man really has is his values. As soon as you decide to vote for Team A over Team B, you're into probably what you would think of as game theory, right? But the problem is that no matter who you vote for, the system is now easy to fix. You can no longer control what those teams are. Now, if you take a look at the left and what happened this election, you'll see that your strategic voting concept has played out exactly as you would advocate. After the blackface thing came out, I'm guessing probably over 1 million people rushed to vote for the Liberal Party, including people who normally would have voted Green or NDP. And the cry was, we need to defeat, not the PPC, it was we needed to defeat the Conservatives. We must rally strategically. And so they did so, and they won. But, James, what did they sacrifice? They voted for a blatant racist. They voted for a sexual assaulter of women. They voted for someone who openly breaks the laws and corrupts the highest office of our nation. They gave up all the values that they had ever said that they had. They became hypocrites, and their opinions became of zero value. And in the end, what they did, if they actually have any concern for those values that they claimed to have, is they voted against them. Now, as much as I despise the NDP's positions, what they plan to do, and same with the Green Party, I completely oppose them. At least those people hadn't been running around in blackface or grabbing women, to my knowledge. So voting for them would have been about conscience. That is where most of the votes should have been. And we're going to set aside popular vote because the numbers were really screwy this election in Canada. What you're advocating for is that people completely sacrifice their own values and go and vote for Party 2, the Conservative Party. The problem is the Conservative Party had a liberal platform. They matched many of the things the Liberals put out outright. And many of the things that they proposed that were supposed to be different, in effect, were no different at all. More importantly, the Liberal or the Conservatives would not stand on moral issues against the Liberal or the left-wing persuasion. In other words, when it came to issues about social issues, they would say, oh, we're for free speech. Oh, it's a little cold out here. My mouth is not working. But then they had a reporter for the Rebel News arrested on a sidewalk.
Listen, I know I'm not part of Jerry Diaz's uniform union, but it'd be nice if you gentlemen, lady, would be give some solidarity. Can I not talk to these members of the press? Do we have freedom of press here? Do we or not?
That is not free speech. That's not even free freedom of the press. He took out a smear campaign agency to target the leader of the PPC during the election, which is in violation of the law. It's called the Election Act.
Well, here we are, less than 48 hours until the first election day polls open, and you can bet party leaders are using every last minute to try and sell their message to voters. Now, as they embark on this final weekend blitz targeting some key battleground ridings, CBC News is also confirming that a consulting firm created a social media campaign to negatively target one of the leaders.
Now, this story first reported in the Globe and Mail, and this social media campaign designed to make the Conservatives look better to voters by painting the People's Party of Canada and its leader as intolerant. Now, CBC News spoke to a source who has direct knowledge of this project and shared internal documents with us. And it shows that Warren Kinsella and his consulting firm, Daisy Group, carried this out. Now, he's a former Liberal strategist. Someone who's now very critical of the Trudeau government. And the documents we saw show that the firm's strategy was to, quote, seek and destroy Bernier's party. And to do that by creating a Twitter account under the guise of an anti-racism group, and then to push Bernier and his party off their message and have them defend against hate speech and racist comments. He was asked on 8 different occasions, what his comments were to explain this story, this controversy, and he didn't answer. Take a listen.
Have you and or your party hired Warren Kinsella's firm to do anything this election campaign?
Just as a rule, we don't make comments on vendors that we may or may not have contracts with.
Why can't you be transparent about that?
It's just we don't offer comments on contracts that may or may not exist on vendors that we may or may not have a relationship with.
Is it a rule you just made up?
We don't make comments on contracts that we may or may not have or vendors that we may or may not have engaged with.
And again, one of my colleagues asked if Liberal leader Justin Trudeau had said that. Would you accept that answer?
It's we don't make comment on contracts that we may or may not have.
Hi, Mr. Trudeau. Since your multiple use of blackface became an international scandal, Canada's international reputation has been irreparably harmed. Have you reached out to any African leaders or any leaders from the Middle East to apologize for your conduct?
Canada will continue to engage in a positive, constructive way around the world, standing up for human rights, engaging with leaders right around the world, because we know that promoting our values and prosperity for everyone around the world, is good for Canadians, and creates better opportunities for everyone.
So that didn't answer the question at all. Have you spoken to any African leaders or leaders from the Middle East to apologize for your personal conduct?
I have continued to engage with leaders around the world in a responsible way during an election campaign. My focus is connecting with Canadians, as I was able to tonight. And I was very pleased to see so many of the questions turn to the environment.
I'm McGregor, CTV News. Sure, you say you want to restore ethics to government, you want to be transparent. I find it astounding you can't answer that basic question about whether you hired this company or not. Why does the great privacy or secrecy about this? Why can't you be transparent with Canadians about this contract?
As a general rule, when it comes to
the
party
general rule?
matters,
What is the general rule?
when it relates to party matters, we don't comment on contracts we may or may not have with them.
Earlier today, you were questioned about how many times you have appeared in blackface or brownface. I'll make it easy. Is it possible to round to the nearest 5? Okay.
I'm not going to make light of the situation. I don't think it's something that we should be making light of. I think far too many people in this country face discrimination.
Why?
It's we don't offer comments. We don't make comments on contracts that may or may not exist.
You should be transparent. Why can't you answer this question?
When it comes to internal party matters, when it comes to contracts that may or may not exist, we don't offer comment. Thanks very much, everyone. Merci beaucoup.
I'm gonna try and lose him.
Nice driving.
Thanks.
Andrew was no better as a political leader than Trudeau. So tell me, how does the idea, and this is what I came to thinking about it myself, how does the idea of strategically voting between the two pieces of shit get me anywhere from my own values? Now consider this. How did the Liberal Party end up becoming so extreme and far left? Well, they got that way because of the NDP and the Green Party. Though their votes are smaller, people vote their values for those parties in most elections. And so the Liberals, in a desperate attempt to gain power again after their crushing defeat of about 10 years under this idiot Trudeau, they went extreme left to beat them at their own game. So those values voting for the smaller party altered the values of the large party. If they had simply, like soldiers, marched strategically with the Liberals all along, then that never would have happened. Now, I am in complete opposition to those values. I think they're atrocious. But the same can be said about my values and yours, which is about liberty. It's about free speech. It's about due process. The Conservatives will never provide that as it is. They need to be afraid that they're going to lose elections indefinitely. And when they look at a party like the PPC, and the fact that almost all of those votes, by the way, were people like me who wouldn't have voted for the Conservatives anyway. Not after their conduct, not after their platform. They're going to look at them and go, how can we get those votes? And this perspective, James, if you consider it and find any value in it, might allow you to look at the people who voted PPC not as people who are stupid or obstinate or delusional living in a fantasy, but people that understand that, like me, that the PPC would lose. I understood that my candidate would lose, and I even liked the Conservative candidate who was the incumbent in my area. It wasn't about that. It was about the fact the party did not stand for the values I needed to vote for. It's about conscience. And if you give that up, James, I mean, what do you expect of people? They can't give up their conscience without becoming exactly what they hate. But on a happier note, this is a minority government, and I think within a year, probably less, these leaders, they have such big egos, they won't be able to cooperate, and we'll have a vote of no confidence, and we'll get to go again. And hopefully the impact of the PPC will have an impact on the platform the Conservatives put forward. Because, like I said, right now, it's just a small L Liberal Party. I'm not interested. And if you're looking for a reason that they lost, even though they got more votes, but the reason they lost more seats was because people were not motivated to go out and vote for them. So what were the alternatives for Conservatives, or people that were going to vote against the Liberal Party, I should say. A party that basically tries to be like them, where their leader is acting so deplorably, so incompetently, and then everyone's saying that the alternative, the PPC, is either a bunch of racists, or I think more importantly, saying they could never win and it's vote splitting. These are the long arcs, man. The battle is long, but the victory is worth it. Do not ask people and do not hate people for standing by their values. At any rate, I hope at some point we get to talk, and I hope you're feeling better soon. I'm not sure what your health problems are, but I hope that someone can help you with that. Peace. Try to relax, and when you get a chance, make more videos.
The right! I meant stay to the right!
Nothing. The word is nothing, not nothing. There's an ing on the end of it. Nothing.
Okay, nothing. 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 Okay, you happy?
That's better. Well, these matches say you're lying.
Oh.
Hey, you! Not so fast. That's better.